Afternoon, everybody. Well, it's that time of the night and it's the horses' last feed for the day. I'm just watching them as I've just given them their new food regime, which is a mixture of benchmark mash. And I'm not promoting anyone's food, I'm just trying it out as per my horse dentist's instructions for Billy. Also giving it to Bella. The whole issue with Bill is that he's got gaps between his teeth, so it causes food to impact on his gums between his teeth. The advice given to me was to change his diet and to also wash his mouth out. So anyway, that's my intention. I've slowly introduced the benchmark food into their dinner. So they get a combination of that and lucerne. They also still are getting a bit of oat and hay, mainly in their hay nets. I do throw a bit of loose hay down for them to stop squabbling, and also because they need to have, hay in their bellies. So I'm still very much investigating, but generally Bill's a lot happier. He doesn't seem to have any teeth pain. I'm monitoring him closely, trying to get him to wash his mouth out. We play water games. I'm going to try and get him to play with the water into his mouth a bit more so I can wash out his mouth. But look, in the meantime, we seem to be on the right track, and we go about our afternoon. So thanks for watching, and please enjoy. Be aware in the next minute or so you'll see me walking up and climbing through the gate with a bag of hay for the horses, and I'm virtually, as I'm getting through, trying to get past Billy's butt and around him, and then I'm trying to get back out again. Now, I will say that I trust my horses 100%, and particularly Billy, because he is 100% aware of wherever I am, and I only have to use my voice to let him know or touch him. And part of that stems from the fact that I dealt with him for a long time when I was legally blind and had to get around Billy, underneath Billy, and do all kinds of things with him when I couldn't see. So he and I have built up a very strong relationship. We also have very strong boundaries with each other over what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Bella's really good too. The only thing I would think I'd have to watch with her is that if she gets flighty, she'll never try and run me over, but she doesn't always see exactly where I am, whereas Bill's 100% aware. So, but if you're just learning to handle your horses or you've got a new horse, don't do the things that I do. Take your time to get to know your horse, and just be aware that our horses have been with us for a very long time, and we've seen everything in each other. So they know me, I know them. I know when not to do silly things, and they know with me not when to do silly things. Some of the most serious injuries that have happened to horse people over the years is because they haven't been able to read their horse's behaviour, or they haven't put in those manners training sessions in the early days. Now, as much as I love my horses and they're really good with me, I did a lot of foundational things with them, which was to teach them about space when I wanted it. So a lot of the times you'll see that neither they or I are particularly worried about space with each other. And but if I'm serious, all I have to do is change my tone. And as soon as I change the tone in my voice, they both respond immediately. And they're very tone sensitive because, again, like I said, because I was legally blind, I had to use a lot of voice control with the horses and arm and hand signals. And both horses understand very well when I'm indicating about something that I'm not pleased with, or I'm warning them, and they will respond quickly. But look, if you haven't got that sort of level of control over your horses, don't take for granted that they're always going to be happy or aware of your presence. And if you're ignoring their warning signals, and if they're warning you and you keep ignoring them, for example, brushing them when they're eating, and you keep getting ears back and the sideways look, and then eventually they bite you or they lash out at you, it's your fault, not the horse's fault. It's your fault because you weren't paying attention to them saying no to you. So, you've got to take into account that horses need to be respected as well. It's not a master-servant relationship. It's about compromise with each other and learning the balance. Because I had to rely on the tones of my voice and my hand signals because my eyesight was just so poor, in terms of what I could see, everything was a blur. I had no contrast, so I couldn't tell where the ground was. I could see only very slightly faded colours. So I really had to rely on using different tones in my voice. So if I was happy, I would raise my voice in a more excited sort of sense that they could work out. If I was feeling a bit annoyed with them, I'd sharpen up the tone of my voice. If I wanted them to calm down, I would lower my voice. If I was disappointed, I would speak really quietly and lower my voice and just focus on them. Both horses actually responded very well to that sort of discipline by me, which might sound funny to many people, but they're very perceptive and they're very aware of body language, and much more so than what people are with them. They're always watching what I'm doing. Even if they're mucking around, a lot of the times they've still got one eye on what's going on with me. And if I suddenly said to them, because I'm annoyed with them, away or move or go, and I point in a direction, they will go. Because that's what they were trained to do when I was legally blind. So a lot of that foundational work happened very early on, like I said before, when I got them. It's essential if you're going to work with horses, you need to be safe around horses. And if you're nearly blind like I was, you need to be super safe with horses. You cannot take for granted that they're always going to be thinking about you or me. Because as you see, quite often my horses are quite squabbling with each other over, who's getting what. There is no true herd leader apart from maybe me, if you want to say it in that context. I actually don't believe in this whole herd leader business. What I do believe is that there's levels of respect that we all must show each other. And ultimately, I'm the protector. I suppose you could call that the herd leader, but they both know it. But it's always about rules of engagement and what's allowed and what's not allowed. And depending on people's moods, so if I'm in a happy mood or peaceful mood or I'm mucking around with them, they understand that. If I firm up, they understand that too. So learn to read your horses, learn to read what your own body is saying to those horses, because I think a lot of people also don't realise what their body language or their voice tones is saying. They're not puppy dogs, they're ginormous creatures, and you make a mistake or they make a mistake, it could be fatal. So think about how you interact with your horses, because too many people, even experienced horse people, get hurt because their mind is elsewhere. Often people are thinking, oh, well, I've got to do this tomorrow, or I've got to go and sort this out. So when they're working around their horses, whether it's to feed them or doing jobs, cleaning up or filling up water, their mind is somewhere else, or worse still, they're on the phone, not paying any attention to what their horses are doing, and then suddenly they end up getting run over or nipped or kicked, or the horse slashes out, and all of a sudden the horse is a bad bugger and they're the innocent victim. No, if you're not engaged with your horses and fully present with them when you're doing work around them, you're putting yourself at risk. Don't do it. Just simply don't do it. If you can't be fully engaged when you're out with your horses, don't go out there. That's my advice. The other thing I wanted to discuss was personality types, whether it be the horse's personality or our own personality. Not all personality types get on, and not everybody's capable of dealing with a pushy horse. Now, you probably may have seen little bits and pieces, but Bill is very pushy. He's very extrovert in his personality. When he was going through his younger years, he was a wild man, an absolute teenage hoon, and he pushed boundaries all the time. I mean, he did all kinds of weird and wonderful things, like, he would regularly take Kelly on to the point that he would strike at Kelly in play, chase him around the paddock. He would try at different times to chase me, but he got warded off fairly fast. He was very boisterous. He still is very boisterous. But nowadays, he's 7 now. And nowadays that he's learnt over the period of years that teenage hooliganism doesn't work, or hooliganism doesn't work on us, because he doesn't get what he wants. So he still tries it on. Don't get me wrong, he'll give the occasional shove with his nose, and think that he's entitled to do that. Well, he gets his feet moved. As soon as he starts any of that kind of behaviour, then I take control and move his feet to let him know, hang on, actually, buddy, I'm the one that's asking for respect, and if you can't respect me, you don't get what you want. Other things he will do, he gets frustrated, so he'll bang on fences, loves to destroy his hooves by smashing fences down when he really wants something. So we still constantly work with him. Now, for an inexperienced person dealing with a Billy type personality, they might find it really difficult, because Bill can up the ante. So if he thinks that he's can win the situation, he'll keep pushing, and he'll push, and he'll push, and he'll push. So he's not what I would call a beginner's horse, although I think he's a very safe horse, and a beginner would be more safe with him, but it's only because we've put the work in. Well, I've put the work in with him. So just be aware of your own capacity in terms of what you can cope with as a person, and what you want out of your horse, and what sort of personality your horse has, because all of this interaction that you have with a horse on a daily basis comes into play big time, and can really work against your horse or against you, and cause behavioural problems if you can't cope with a robust, outgoing personality like the sort that Bill's got. Then move the horse on before you end up with behavioural problems, because a lot of behavioural problems occur simply because personality differences. Somebody with a gentle personality would not cope with a boisterous gelding or mare, whatever the case may be, and vice versa. Someone with an outgoing, boisterous sort of personality doesn't do well with a quiet, introverted type horse. So you really got to think about not just the physical attributes of the horse or the discipline that you want. You need to spend time with the horse that you want to buy and figure out if you're matched, because too often people buy horses like they buy cars. Oh, I like the colour of that horse, or I like the movement on that horse, or I want to have a Western horse or a dressage horse, and the horse that they're looking at, it fits the type, but they have no idea about who that horse is. And you really do need to know. That's fundamental to having a long-term relationship with the horse and not having behavioural problems or creating behavioural problems with the horses that you own. Well, that's my thoughts for the day. If you like our channel, please subscribe and hit the like button, and I will speak to you again shortly. Thanks, everybody.